Hi everyone, it's Melissa from Inspire Me ASAP. As you know, March is Women's History Month. Women's History Month was created as a way to recognize, honor, and celebrate many contributions that women have made throughout history, society, and culture. The month also recognizes the struggles of these women and the accomplishments that they had over their struggles. Since March is National Women's History Month, it is also a great time for educators to tailor their reading, lessons, and activities around learning the important contributions of different women in our history. The reading lessons that I am going to share today can certainly be taught at any time throughout the year. However, I specifically tailored the lesson around one very important woman who holds a dear spot in my heart, from one animal lover to another, Jane Goodall. So this one will be perfect for me to use in my classroom this month to celebrate the contribution that she made during Women's History Month. So let me share with you two lessons. The first lesson is about teaching students how to think about what they are reading. Now, we know as adults, as educators, we know that strong readers think about what we are reading, right? We have already internalized this process. When we read a book, we naturally make connections to the text. We naturally are visualizing in our mind different parts of what we're reading. We are making connections. We are summarizing the most important parts. I know that when I'm reading, I go crazy with my sticky notes, and I'm constantly marking up my book with the most important parts that I really want to remember and hold on to, or maybe share with someone. The book that I just finished reading on a personal level is Daring Greatly by Brene Brown. Love, love, love this book. Highly recommend it. Those processes of reading as adults, we have already internalized. When we are working with students and teaching students to become strong readers, we need to explicitly teach them how to make connections, how to ask questions, how to visualize, how to use all of these reading strategies. One way that I like to model this is by using thought bubbles. I have laminated these thought bubbles, and these are just something that I purchased from the teacher's store a long time ago, and they're perfect with just being able to reuse them with a dry erase marker. You can certainly recreate these on your own. But I love to use speech bubbles as a way to model how readers can think about what they are reading. I am going to show you what this strategy would look like and what it would sound like as I am teaching this to my students. So I might begin by saying, readers, we have been doing some important work around thinking about what we are reading. We know that strong readers think about what is going on in the story as they are reading the story. Today, I'm going to go back to the story that we've been reading together, read a short portion out loud, and boys and girls, I'm going to show you, I'm going to model to you what it looks like to think about what I am reading when I'm reading this story. Let's go ahead and give it a go. So I would open up to a portion of the text that I would like to share with my students. This would be my mentor text. I would not be reading aloud the whole story at this point. I would just be reading aloud my short portion. One day, Jane saw a chimp make a tool out of a long stalk of grass. He poked it into a termite mound. Then he slurped up the termites. Before that, people thought only humans made and used tools. Another day, Jane discovered chimps eating meat. Before that, people thought chimps ate only plants. I want to go back to page 21. Here it's telling me that people thought chimps ate only plants. I'm wondering, does this mean that chimps are herbivores? I remember my teacher teaching me when we were learning about animals, herbivores, carnivores. I'm wondering if I can write down on my thought bubble, does this mean that chimps are omnivores? Because I remember her teaching me that omnivores means that an animal eats plants and meat. And so I would demonstrate how on my little thought bubble here, I would literally write that down and then write down the page number. We always want to be teaching to use text evidence, which would be page 21. When I have that written down and I demonstrated that, I would then invite the students to try this strategy with me, guiding them through this process. So I would give them their own thought bubble. They could draw one, cut it out, whatever it is that you're using. They would then think as I am reading the next page or 2 or 3 out loud, they would be thinking about what I am reading aloud to them and writing down what is coming to their mind about the portion that I read. We could then turn and talk and share. Students who are working remotely, if you're teaching remotely, students can turn and talk to a stuffed animal and share what they are thinking to their stuffed animal. So this is one way that you can use a reading lesson to teach about a very important woman. If I were to take this lesson and extend it by having the students then work independently, they would come to their book nook and pick out some books that they are reading, and they would extend this to their own learning, reading independently books from their book nook. Ideally, it would also be books that I use that in the same genre in my mini lesson. So other important books that would be in their book nook, they would be taking these stories and then they would be using their own thought bubble to write down whatever it is they were thinking as they were reading their books from their book nook during their independent reading time. Now for my second lesson that I have for you, let me just put these away. My second reading lesson that I have to share with you is a reading lesson that is the strategy to compare two books to find new information. So the strategy is compare books for new information. Students will compare and contrast two books on the same topic. So if we look here, we are obviously going to have Jane Goodall as our topic. That is the person that we are learning about in our lesson. So I would have a different book about Jane Goodall ready for this lesson. Two books on the same person on the same topic. It would be the one that we already read, and depending on the reading level, grade level that you are teaching, you would then tailor the books that you are choosing for this lesson according to their level, their interest, what would be appropriate for them. For the sake of this lesson, I am going to choose this one right here. I am Jane Goodall. After reading both books, you would ask students to think about what similarities do both books have. So you could begin by just basically sharing what similarities are that you can see by looking on the cover. So what similarities do we see? And then we would dive into the actual book, and then we would compare what do we notice about Jane Goodall, a champion of the chimpanzees, and what do we notice about I am Jane Goodall. I love to show, as you know, I love to show this strategy by using a Venn diagram. And as a whole class, you can create a Venn diagram of the information that you learned, asking the students to think about what similarities both books have, and then also what differences are between the two books. One suggestion that I would give is to make a Venn diagram with, I know if you're brave, I did this actually like literally one of my first years of teaching as an observation. My principal came in, she saw my hula hoops, was probably thinking, what is this teacher doing? But I was modeling I was comparing, contrasting with Lincoln and Washington. It was a first grade classroom, and we did an interactive whole group Venn diagram with our hula hoops, and it was an awesome lesson. But that aside, I would highly recommend that you make an interactive, super fun and engaging Venn diagram using 2 hula hoops. Now, granted, we are in a pandemic, so you would want to make sure that you are adhering to safety protocols in your building, in your state, and so maybe this type of lesson might need to wait until after COVID has passed. However, you can easily make a interactive Venn diagram with the hula hoops on the floor, and students can take, whether it's sentence strips or sticky notes, students can take one of each color. Each color would represent the categories. So for example, the pink sticky notes would represent this book. The blue sticky notes would represent this book. Yellow would represent what both books have in common. And you could give students one of each color, and you can have them, or just one sticky note, you can have them write on the sticky note what they noticed about what is in this book, for example, what is in this book, or what is similar about both books. And you can have them take their sticky note or their sentence strip or their note card, whatever it is, and they can come and place it in the correct category, in the correct spot on the Venn diagram. These lessons are included in my reading unit on metacognition, reading strategies. And if you enjoyed these lessons, then I will put the link for that unit that I have in the description below. You'll want to check it out because I do have a lot of other similar reading lessons that are exactly like the lessons I presented in today's video. In the meantime, make sure you hit the subscribe button so that you do not miss any of my future videos. And my friends, happy reading and happy Women's History Month.